Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Formulating with Courage. I am Zach Woods, the head of sales at Alchemy, and I'm joined today by, dare I say, the coolest guest that we've had on Formulating with Courage so far, Marie Granstrom, Chief Activist and founder of Origin by Ocean. Hi, Marie.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. And thank you for the invitation. It's really great to be here today. Thanks.
Absolutely. We're really happy to have you here, to be honest. Not just because you have the coolest haircut of any guest, but we don't, a lot of those material scientists, COOs and CDOs, they're not like avid yogis, so it just is like it's a slightly different vibe that we have going on today, which is exciting. So look, just to give everyone a quick orientation to the Zoom platform, if you've been under a rock or under the ocean for the last 6 months and haven't used Zoom, that's okay. We're here to help you out. There is a, first and foremost, Q&A button at the bottom of your settings. This is supposed to be interactive. We want you guys to ask questions. Obviously, words like ocean eutrophication are hard to understand or even pronounce, so please get yourself involved on the Q&A. Marie has been kind enough to grace us with her time, and today we're going to cover mainly 3 things. We're going to cover a little bit of her background in the material science industry, specifically as it relates to sustainable materials. We're going to talk about, for sure, the meat of the conversation will be the founding and the growth of Origin by Ocean. Where did the idea come from? What the heck is not what is the ocean, but how do we save the ocean? And then lastly, and this is a little bit unique, and I personally am really excited about this, is that Origin by Ocean is a customer of Alchemy. And we're going to talk about sort of the reason, not just the what, but the why, the reason that a small startup out of the Nordics decided that they really wanted to not maybe commit some sins of the past. So Marie, I think for the people that don't know you, it would be awesome to hear a little bit about your background, career, what did you study in university? Let's kind of get the folks warmed up here.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, I'm a chemist by training. I have a PhD in organic chemistry, and I've always been very interested and enthusiastic about whole bio-based industry, especially biochemicals, biomaterials, and biorefineries. So after my PhD, I joined BASF in Germany, and I worked there in this kind of at the time, everyone was talking about the bioeconomy. Now we talk about circular economy, but we were looking at how BASF could have maybe new strategy in terms of biochemicals. So that was very, very interesting time. And then after that, I joined another big corporation, Stora Enso, here in the Scandics. And I was first in Stockholm and then in the US as well. And kind of a same agenda, looking at biochemicals, looking at biorefineries, looking at the whole value chain, all the way from the feedstock to the final materials. And now Origin by Ocean. So it was a big step, of course, from the corporation world to a startup. And but I always considered myself as an entrepreneur. And even though that I was inside of these big corporations, I always worked in the areas that were completely new for the companies as well. So I was always kind of like an entrepreneur inside of this big corporation. And yeah, but it's different when you have money to spend, so you don't have to worry about every penny. But yeah, so basically the idea of Origin by Ocean has been my hobby for years. And then when I decided to leave the corporation world, here we are today. But we can talk about that later on. But that's basically my background.
It's one of my questions a bit later on in the session, but I'm going to talk about sort of where that fire started. I will get there, but I don't want to jump too fast. So obviously, I think most of the people that are on this call, or I would assume that most of the people on this call are here to really learn about Origin by Ocean specifically. It's kind of like you were a material scientist and you worked at BASF. Okay, welcome to the 100,000 person group. But it is quite rare, I have to say, from my experience, almost 10 years in this industry, to see someone not only go into another world, but to really go out on their own to start something like this. So I'd love to hear, what was that initial inertia that took you from the lab of some of the largest material science companies in Europe to founding Origin by Ocean?
I have to say that it's very simple. It was the passion for do things that really matter. Like when I'm not saying now that, pardon me, I'm not saying that in big corporations people don't do work that matters. That's not my point. But the point really was that, as we all know, when you work in the very large organizations, the work is very different. And of course, also the influence you have on things is very, very different. And as I've always been an activist anyway, and now I'm being very into the whole ecosystems in the oceans and in the nature in general, I'm seeing how we've been kind of, putting all the waste out there and doing very harmful things for the nature. And I felt that there needs to be a way that we can also do very sustainable business using this kind of an environmental problem. And then I started, I think it was like 10 years ago, if I'm not lying, I started to look into this thing, how to turn this eutrophication of the oceans into the profitable business, and what kind of materials we could extract from this issue. And it was really the passion, like, and then of course, I mean, the kind of the fact that I'm not getting any younger, that if you want to do these things, you just have to do them. And that was a shocking moment for me to realize that I'm not getting any younger. So I realized that, okay, if I want to do it, I just have to do it now. And also I was in the situation in the corporation world that I was very happy with. And so it was kind of like easy decision to just pack my things and start to do something different, and something I always wanted to do, which is important.
Yeah. It is not totally intentional, but if anyone has been following the show, which some people have, I see some repeat visitors, which is great. The theme of passion and direction has come up more and more. So in our last episode with Vincent Colgrave from Solvay, he actually took the opposite route of you, right? So he was working for a startup that was focused on non-pollutive, zero-pollutive flights from certain regions in the U.S., and then was acquired from that company into Solvay. But he was really emphasizing how much of a role passion plays. And I guess it's sort of an interesting observation that I have specifically about you with your founding story is, I think you recognize that you could turn your knowledge, right, from the lab into your passion project, right? So there are so many uses for what's happening in the ocean or in nature, into not only impacting nature, but to making better products and making better solutions, right, in the marketplace. Speaking of products and solutions, I think, some people may misinterpret and think, okay, Origin by Ocean is a philanthropic organization that's trying to convince people that we should, care about the oceans and donating money to Greenpeace. Quite the opposite. You guys are a material science company, and I think what would be really useful is to learn. Tell us a little bit about how we take kelp or ocean bladder and what we're doing to it, and then where it's being used. So what are the alternative raw materials that we're getting rid of? Help people understand a little bit more of the chemistry of what's behind Origin by Ocean.
Yeah. So basically what we are doing, we are developing the core technology, how to extract value from this marine biomass. And that means that we are developing a biorefinery technology. And the thing is that we always wanted to use two different feedstocks. So we have the macroalgae, as you mentioned correctly, so it's kelp. But in the Nordics, we don't have kelp, we have bladderwrack, which is like a smaller cousin of kelp. And then we also use cyanobacteria, which is blue-green algae. And this is really like blue-green algae blooms. Those are the massive problems we are seeing all over the world. That's basically the first sign of the eutrophication. When you have too much nutrients in the water, you start to see these cyanobacteria blooms. So these are the two feedstocks we are working with, and what we actually want to do is extract different type of materials, as you mentioned, out from these materials. Mainly they are polysaccharides, so they're called hydrocolloids, which can be used in cosmetic, food, beverage industry, you name it. They are all over the place. We actually use them every day when we eat, when we brush our teeth, when we, put the face cream on, and these are just alternatives, like bio-based alternatives for the synthetic ones. Plus, of course, it's not just replacing. I mean, our idea is not just to go and tell people that, okay, here is like a cream thing for you, go and do it, but we actually go after the performance as well. So we totally appreciate and understand that we are still selling the function. So when people do formulations, whatever they do, it needs to work. It needs to have maybe even a bit better performance in terms of being that viscosity or whatever thing you are looking at. So I think the other thing which might be a bit different is that as we use this type of a biomass, and when we take it out from the water, from the oceans, we actually remove the nutrients as well. So we do good for the oceans while we are making good products for people. So I think the value chain thinking here is also very interesting, that we can really benefit from the fact that we are removing these nutrients. And it's not, and plus then of course we have the whole carbon sink discussion, because algae in general is very good carbon sink. So you can do a lot of like different calculations in terms of the sustainability measurement or indicator if you want to do. So that was actually a very long answer for the products, and I always get very excited about this, like eutrophication.
Yeah, you said passion. Yeah, you also look a little bit like the Terminator as you're waving those hands around. Yeah, you have to. Marie, we need you to do the Angela Merkel. Okay, you have to do the Angela Merkel. So this is your position. This is your position now, okay? You're here, okay. You're here,
I'm gonna
not here. Okay, well that's the prayer. You're praying now, okay? Less prayer, more miracle. Prayer, miracle, okay? I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
Okay, so a bit of I told you I was gonna make you laugh, didn't I? Yeah. A bit of a curveball, or a bit of a change of topic, right? So I've asked every guest, and I think you're like really under the ocean if you're not aware of the situation that's been happening with COVID. I think more on a personal level or professional, it could be both. Obviously, as you know, startups are both. They are professional and personal. The line thins very, very much. Tell us how, for you and Origin by Ocean, because Origin by Ocean is you and you are it, how has business changed, or how have things shifted for you in the past 2 quarters, let's say? Any particular highlights? Obviously, we eat more things on the couch now than we maybe did 6 months ago. But I'd love to hear, in what way obviously you've been doing this for a number of years, and COVID has certainly been a shock to the system. But maybe bigger or maybe small. I'd love to hear your perspective on how that's really impacted you guys.
I have to say that we've been extremely lucky when it comes to the COVID. The only problem we had was that we were actually just closing our seed round when the COVID hit. That was, I still remember, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd week. We had all the investors on table already, and they were like, yeah, we are good to go. But we didn't have any signatures, so the contracts were not in place. And then the COVID came, and with Mikko, with the co-founder, we were thinking that, oh my God, we will lose the whole money, like we will not be able to close the seed round. But luckily, our investors, they have a bit more long-term view on things. So they are not just looking at this year or next year, but they look at rather like 25 years plus. So we managed to close the seed round, which for us was a big thing. And so we actually had a bit of a celebration during the COVID time, which we couldn't really say because people were suffering. So it was a bit of a weird time for us, because we were really happy, and then of course you could see that the businesses were going down and all that jazz. So that meant that when we closed the financial round, we actually started the operation straight away. So during the COVID time, we started the lab from scratch. We did like all the purchasing we needed to do. We started to hire people. So we were going like upstream when everyone else was just like, you know, trying to survive, and we were almost like blooming, if you like. And so
Yeah.
we didn't, of course, we lost some money during this seed round because of COVID, but it was not a major thing. So yeah, in that sense, we've been really lucky.
Wow, but that's and to be honest, we ask the question not because we think it's going to be a story of doom and gloom. We ask because I think it's so amazing that it truly depends who's on the other side of this video camera, wherever they're sitting in the world, what their answer is. It really depends. Your material science industry, it must have been either good or bad. And the truth is, it depends. It depends what industry you are in. Obviously, BASF probably not raising funds unless they're out on the capital market looking for some money. So it's a completely different dynamic, right? But really, I certainly didn't realize about that particular financial event. But obviously, having heard through the grapevine, I've known very intimately about your internal growth, right? So about the stand-up of the lab, about the hiring of people. And I think maybe that's a really interesting segue into Alchemy and Origin by Ocean, right? So to preface this, and I don't want to get too dramatic, but I may. So if I do, you start not miracling, and then I'll get undramatic. I think, you know, something that I always was so interested in about Origin by Ocean, you and Mikkel, was that somehow you knew that something like Alchemy, from a process mapping and data collection standpoint for your work, was going to be necessary literally even before you had the people to do the work. And I mean, this is a mind blower, because to be honest, we talk to companies that have hundreds of chemists and 10 locations, and they don't know that. So I'd really love to hear, how on earth did you come to the conclusion that this was something that you needed before you had ever actually, obviously you had been testing and developing prototypes, this is clear, but how did you come to the conclusion that you needed a tool like Alchemy to help with your lab data management? Was it previous experience at other companies and feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to repeat that, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Would love to hear it from you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And basically, I know myself very well. And I know that I'm very bad when it comes to data handling. And now I have this responsibility that I need to be able to do the data analysis. I need to be able to have it in a place that I can trust that it's there, it's in one place. And that was one of the reasons why I actually started to look into this thing from day one, that we need to have a system that we can trust, which works for us, which is flexible. As you said, we are a startup, we will grow, the process will change. So we needed something like that. And I knew that I'm very bad when it comes to this data handling. I'm always this person who is like taking this massive brush and doing like, ooh, this thing. And when it comes to details, I suffer. And also I've been in the situations in a big corporations when the whole ELN boom hit. And suddenly, you know, companies started to think that maybe the lab journal thing that you write everything down on a piece of paper is not a good thing. So I was part of the process when one commercially available ELN type was kind of, you know, but we did the whole setting up and implementation and all that. And we saw fairly quickly that it was designed for pharmaceutical industry purely. And we were doing very different type of R&D. And we spent so much time just trying to fit the data in, and it was not fitting. And I went crazy because we had like, you know, we had all this data we needed to analyze so that we could move forward. But then we ended up, you know, spending time trying to fit something into the system, which was not suitable for this type of work. So I had this experience from the past, and I was thinking that as we are a startup, you know, we don't have the luxury of time. So we have to perform very well. We can't spend hours of trying to find the data, or trying to build up a system ourselves, that we would end up having this never-ending Excel sheet of stuff. And as we all think, also personally, if you think that we are all different when it comes to like a logical thinking, and so people tend to think that, okay, my way of thinking is very logical. Of course, for yourself it is, but not maybe for others. And then normally what happens, you end up having a lot of different systems in place, and then you just can't, harmonize the system. And that's why when I heard about you guys, I got very excited, because I was thinking that will save my behind, first of all. And secondly, I don't have to worry about things anymore, that people can use it. As long as we can make it and tailor that to our needs, we're going to be okay. And so that's why, when we started to talk and you explained what all the things you can do with Alchemy, that was amazing. So it was very easy for us to decide what to do.
This was so, I could have obviously never repeated all that, but I think amazingly, the person that has been in the shoes knows the problem, right? We come across companies that are young, of course, right? They know about data, they know about tools, but I think the gap, right, that you fill from your behind maybe not having been saved in the past, is that you've been in the big company and seen the problem. It's so interesting, right? Because they know tools are a thing. They've grown up with software tools, right? They've grown up using tools. They believe firmly that there's a better way than Excel, but then they say, but I don't know, it seems, I don't know. And it's like, well, unfortunately, you may never get to know if you don't start early, because you said something that is amazing. We feel this too, just to be clear. In a startup, time is the thing you don't have. Yeah. Time is the thing you don't have, right? So finding something that can save you time looking for information, how critical is that? I want to dive into something that you shared. I mean, and here, maybe this is like a bullet round. I don't know. This is obviously sort of a back and forth conversation. You mentioned a previous ELN, and obviously we don't need any names, either of the company or the vendor, but I would love to hear, what are the biggest differences that you see about the ELN you experienced in the past and the formulating ELN that you have today? I'd love to hear in your words the difference that you see. Oh,
everything. It's just, everything is different. I mean, first of all, I think what it needs to provide is easy use environment. You have to be able to navigate easily. You don't have to know, like, different codes, like, 7-digit codes in order to access whatever data. So I think that's something that people feel that is very easy to use. You can navigate the system. Plus, of course, I think that the beauty lies in the fact that what we have now is written by Ocean. It's our workflow. It's our way of working. So that's why it's very logical for us as well to follow this logic, because it's our logic. and you guys, you just made it so easy for us that we have like the important data points locked. So when we want to do analysis of different data points, everything just appears. So we don't have to go and search for hours and hours and hours to do that. And I think that's really like, the whole thing is so different. And that's what I'm trying to tell people in the corporations, that please, take this risk and have a look at, different vendors. Because I also understand that fear is something which is, of course, always kind of motivating people to make certain decisions. That if one big company is using a certain system, it's easier for the other one to say, right, why don't we just take the same one? Because these guys are already using it, so it must be good. So you don't want to be the one who is taking maybe something completely new, because you don't know, you don't want to make mistakes in a way. And yeah, I mean, people would be, I guess, really surprised, after they could see something very, very different and really understand that, okay, we can tailor the whole thing just for us. And I think that's the beauty of it, definitely.
Well, the compliment goes to our product team, and I have to give her a shout out. She's going to kill me for this, but Milica, shout out to you. She's really done such a,
yes,
shout out to Milica. The wave is actually more dramatic inside of this hologram that we have. And you mentioned something else that yet again I'll sort of focus in on, and that's the process from going from, okay, I've used the tool in the past, right? So this is something we interface with a lot, is that people have this expectation, and you and I went through this together. You have this expectation of, okay, you showed me a demonstration of the tool, and you looked at this demonstration of the tool, and unlike most people, I think you actually believed, hey, we work with you to tailor this thing that you're seeing now into your version of Alchemy. And for people that are in another tool today, this is incredibly difficult for them because they're used to seeing what it's always been, and it doesn't change. Yeah. So we have customers or prospects that we talk to that they say, but it's not doing exactly what I want. So I don't want it. I'd love to hear how you worked with Alchemy's team to actually shape the tool in the way you want it to be, rather than saying, okay, well, this is the tool, I guess this is what we will have to live with, sort of that situation you were in previously with the old ELN.
I think Milita could actually talk about this better than I do. but basically the way we started was that we were just doing like the drawing of the processes. I love the fact that you don't have to spend time of, creating documents and creating this and that and stuff. So for us, it was very easy. So we were just explaining what we want to do, what are the important things. And we use a lot of different drawings of the process and process steps and analysis, what we need to do and how that works. And then, you guys, you did the whole work of asking the right questions. And I think that's very important, that normally people don't ask the questions. Like if you go to the vendors, they don't ask you like, what is the most crucial data you need to have? Or how do you want to compare your results? And how do you want to like interlink all the things what you are working with? And I think that was the key, that Milita was just asking me a lot of questions, and she made me think that, yes, do I really actually want to do this thing or not? And what's actually important for us? And that really, I think that made it, to this shape we have it today. And I think the key thing is that people tend to think that when you buy a software, again, I'm not an IT person, so I might something stupid, but I say it anyway. So you buy a software and then you think that, okay, everything is working and it's, it's there. But you need to understand that, I think, when you do R&D or whatever formulation application work, things will change. If they don't change, you have to get worried. So that's why your system needs to be able to kind of, move with you and also change with you. And I think that's really the beauty of it.
Oh my gosh, you're a marketing guru as well as an ocean advocate. We say all the time, or I should say, Sasha says all the time, software, and she believes this not just about Alchemy for you guys, but in general, software for a long time made businesses fit to it. And the future is software that fits to the business in a unique way. Now, obviously, there are some restrictions for not just legacy companies, but modern companies too, that if you don't have an architecture that allows for flexibility, it's very difficult to map. Imagine mapping origin by ocean and BASF's processes and data needs in the same tool, right? This is very hard for certain companies. It's very, very difficult, but it's something that can be done inside of Alchemy, which, needless to say, is one of the reasons I love to work here. So I have a big splashy question that has nothing to do with Alchemy for the last question during our session today. I'll start with reading a fact. The ocean covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface. and is 99% of living space by volume. 40% of the ocean is heavily affected by pollution. I stole this off from your website in case it sounds familiar. Okay. I typically ask guests, what digital technology are they most excited about for the future of material science? And I think that for you, the right question is, what green technology are you most excited about the restoration of our environment?
Oh, I wish I could just say like one technology, but no way.
You can say multiple. You can say multiple. It's fine.
Yeah. The thing is that I think what we need to learn to understand that we are facing this massive problem. It's just let's call it climate crisis as a whole thing, and it has so many things there. It's like this massive umbrella, and you have a lot of tiny issues there. And of course, oceans are the ones that are showing, the most of the problems. You like it or not, but they are there. And that's why we need to have several technologies from different angles to tackle all these issues what we have today. And that's why I'm always saying that some people are laughing at us when we talk about the fact that we are, removing the nutrients from the ocean, and they go and say like, but that's nothing, like that's a tiny thing you do. But yeah, we are very proud to do this tiny thing, because we need a lot of these tiny things. And when you sum them up, you have it. But if we always think that, oh, this is just a small thing, so I'm not going to do anything, I can't make the difference, or my business can't make the difference, that's so wrong, because we need all the good technologies to help our environment. And we have actually created this crisis. So I think it would be very nice that we could also clean it. So that's what I think, that we need a collaboration. We need expertise from all the different areas to tackle that problem. And it feels good that we do our share. At least we try.
I love that. And maybe as a word of advice, I literally wrote this down, Marie, in my questions. I'm not kidding. I wrote that I think something that holds people back or firms back, people or firms back in their pursuit of impacting climate change is that they feel that what they individually can do is hard to measure. And what you just said is, yeah, it is. Because if you expect that your effort will be measurable, then maybe you're buying into the wrong narrative. What is something that Zach, can do starting today that can help this problem in a real way, even if not immediately measurable, like on a Fitbit or something?
I would say that you have to reduce the waste. So I think the easiest, I always tell people that if you want to do something, just look at how you consume things and start from there. That's the easiest thing we can all do that. We can all, analyze what we actually buy, how we use things we own, and then, then basically you start to understand fairly quickly that, okay, maybe there are things that I don't really need to have. And then you can make your life more sustainable, whatever that means.
Marie, this has been a joy, really. You're a special lady. We need more people that have your courage. I use the term formulating with courage, not just because I think people are creating cool products, but I use the term very strategically because I don't think courage is just happening in the lab. I think courage happens in a variety of places, and Origin by Ocean and you are definitely formulating with courage. So thank you so much for being on the show today. We have a number of people saying, awesome, go reduce waste. So yeah, let's do that. I'm going to say, really, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here. Thank you.